Hey, welcome to Reddit Revenge. We have two pro-revenge stories today. So, let's get to it. Story 1. Lying and using people. I got you. This one needs background to fully understand why I went out of my way for this revenge. My best friend was married for 10 years. With his ex for a total of 13 years. He was absolutely head over heels in love with her, like I had never seen before. Which I never understood due to her alcohol abuse. She would take it out on him, and when he'd be venting about it he'd always fall back on, "It's not her, it's the illness," a very respectable and admirable stance on it. Last year she asked for a divorce, because after years of what I would call abuse, he had simply run out of gas. Her reasoning for asking for one? When she got fired for testing positive for weed, he wasn't empathetic enough. He admits he wasn't because it had come on the back of one of her drunken tirades, where she told him he was a piece of shit, who was always trying to control her. When all he ever tried to get her away from was booze for the way she treated him when she was drunk. It took him forever to move on from this, with the divorce following shortly after. And earlier this year, after thinking he was moving on, he calls me to come over, and he's in a bad way. I arrive and he is absolutely fall down level of drunk. Going on that she didn't ask for a divorce for those reasons, that she had really been cheating with several other people. The next morning when he's more coherent, I ask him how he knew. He was cleaning out the spare room and selling/donating stuff he didn't need anymore, and when he went to clear an old tablet, she was still logged on and all of the evidence was there. He gets that out and says he's going back to bed, and asks me to lock up when I leave. Before I left, I looked at the tablet. After seeing what I saw, I wanted to find a way to get even with the horrible and conniving woman, so I took pictures of it all and left. When I got home I started looking up information about these people. Two of them were just normal guys. Whether they knew she was married or not I don't know. But the third? Well, the third comes up as a registered sex offender. Still on probation for being such a disgusting pile of shit, and address listed as 123 Lane, City, State. Como knew that she was married. I immediately knew what I was gonna do. Como didn't live at 123 Lane. Como was living with the conniving ex. She made regular posts about their time together. On top of that, she is an avid weed user and has several firearms because she enjoys sport shooting. So I go into the state's sex offender site and make a report of Como not actually living where he's registered, and that Como is living in a home with what he has no right to, being a convicted felon and on parole. I include screenshots of the social media posts, and all to back it up. I was thinking little would happen but an inconvenience to their lives. Boy was I wrong. She broke her typical posts with nothing serious trend on social media yesterday. With this gem. My year can't get any worse. Como lost his job, and I am now facing eviction because I can't afford my rent. So I go on the state court system site to see if it's related. And yes, it was. Como was rearrested. She clearly can't post bail or Como would be out. The job she took after being fired definitely can't support her lifestyle. So he's probably going back to prison or at least jail, and she's a breath away from being homeless. I don't know if I'd ever tell my best friend I was the one behind this. But he is definitely ecstatic to see a horrible woman and sewer rat get what they deserve. Part of me wants to put up the sex offender registration link, and that it's sitting in jail, and say something to the effect of, "It's a little more than losing a job, but not wanting to make my best friend's life harder, I'll just let sleeping dog lie." The end. Now, on to our second revenge story. Crappy Boss's FAFO. I had a job working warehouse/delivery for a store. The entire corporate structure was built on treating the people below you like shit, and that was passed down through every level. Managers would just bark orders, and bitch you out for any reason they could think of. They paid about 25 cents over minimum wage, and the bosses drove BMWs and Mercedes. The big boss lived in an $8 million house. Our store was the freight hub for 4 others in the little chain, so we got to know the drivers from the other stores well, as they were always coming to load freight or drop stuff off. One day, we're sitting with 2 drivers from another store, and Buddy remarks that he and his partner are working over 60 hours a week. I say he must be doing okay with all that overtime pay. He says they're not getting overtime, just paid a straight time rate. I ask him if he signed an averaging agreement. He says no. He shows me his pay stub, and there it is. His partner comes back and confirms all this, and they've been doing it for months. He'd asked his manager about overtime, and been told that straight pay was just the way it worked. I tell them that's illegal, and urge them to take it to labor relations. They're reluctant to rock the boat, figuring they'll be fired. So I drop it. We never got any overtime. Our warehouse was busy, our store was not. A couple months later, they're in again, and Buddy's partner tells us he and his girlfriend are moving back east, and he's giving his notice. I tell him again to file a complaint, nothing to lose now. So he does. A few weeks go by, and when I come in one day, there are expensive boss cars parked all along the loading dock. My workmate says something big is going down. All the managers have been summoned, and are inside with a bunch of people in suits. So we wander upstairs to see what's going on. The company bookkeeper had an office in our store, and handled all the payroll. He was a Chinese immigrant, nice guy. The bosses were trying to pin this on him, saying he didn't speak English very well, which was true, and had obviously screwed everything up. Turns out he was a pretty cagey guy. He knew what they'd told him to do was illegal, and was able to produce all the records of him telling them that, and of them telling him to basically just shut up and do it. He hands it all over and quits. I see Buddy, with a new partner, a few weeks later. He's got a pay stub for about 15 paychecks worth of earnings. Company got caught for all the overtime pay, and a pretty substantial fine on top of that. Added bonus, the second-in-command had driven over a nail when he parked his silver BMW on the loading dock and had a flat when he came out of the store. He opened his trunk and called me over and said, "Change that for me." I told him sorry, that's not my job, and if I hurt myself, my compensation claim would be denied. As he went in to call a tow truck, I stood on the loading dock and gazed upon all the havoc I had wrought, and my heart was glad. The end. That's all we have today. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. Have a great day.